our glorious
fuck is up,
intro.
America? No, seriously, what the fuck is up, America?
Right?
Jesus fucking Christ. There you go. That sets the mood for the whole night. If you just stumbled in here, now you know what the fuck you're in for. David, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. For those that have
I'm
never
emotionally
seen us
exhausted.
before, why don't you give people a breakdown on what the fuck it is that we're doing here?
So basically, me and Lucas, right now, every Tuesday, we enjoy sitting around, drinking beer and discussing current events, usually from a more leftist bent. I like to provide the educated commentary. Lucas likes to provide whatever trash thought pops into his head.
It really is kind of like sports. You're like the stats and facts guy. You're the guy that always knows the numbers that match the names on the backs. And I'm like Jerry the King Lawler. I just talk shit about shit and then ask you weird questions. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the nature of our whole relationship. And it's been such a really like, as a personal relationship, it's one of my favorite friendships of all time because of the fact that we cross over in this way. But we thought it'd be really fun to let people in on it, and partly just for shits and grins, and also because of our civic duty to contribute some kind of noise into the atmosphere that counteracts the knuckle-dragging shitheels that have taken the fuck over.
Yep.
So, welcome to the show. Olivia's here. Perfect description. Thank you very much. And Mark, hello, Mark. Good to see you, buddy. So if you're here, chime in, say hello. Feel free to drop your comments as well. We will definitely try to feature a bunch of that. We do try to start right off the top with a little something that we call hot take quickies, and the idea was to try to get us two blowhards in line with some quick thoughts, right? And I'm going to just start off because I only brought one to the table tonight because there continue to be developments here in Grand Rapids. I've come to the conclusion that the GRPD has the shittiest trigger discipline ever. So I finally got the chance, and we posted it on the page earlier, I finally got the chance to watch the video of the accidental discharge situation. So some time ago, before Patrick Luoya was murdered, there was an accidental discharge by a GRPD officer responding to some kind of search for a stolen car or whatever. And I thought, oh, well, if it's like my street, our houses on this side are 4 feet above the street, and there's like a gradual curve down toward the street. So maybe this guy like lost his footing on an angle, and the gun went off when he fell. I could maybe give that some. No, they were standing in this fucking guy's driveway. They had already detained a random black guy that was completely not involved. And the cop is standing there with his gun still involved in the situation, with the would-be suspect, if he were a suspect of anything, on the ground. And the gun fires off into the ground next to the fucking guy that's on the ground.
Jesus Christ.
And this fucking Barney Fife motherfucker, like, I guess the bullet that he fired was the one that he pulled out of his pocket. He immediately said, that was me. It accidentally went off. And the guy on the ground is like, sir, why did you fire? And so now they're being sued the fuck out of by the guy that was on the ground. And right now, Chris Becker, the ass puppet of the GQP that we have for a prosecutor in this county here in Grand Rapids, he's only charging the guy with like negligent discharge of a firearm, $50 penalty bullshit. And the lawyer for the dude that was on the ground is like, nah, bruh, we're going to dip you in oil and light the fire because fuck you. And so the guy is claiming, rightfully all kinds of trauma and shit. And if you're a black guy on the ground in any city in the United States and a cop is standing above you and a gun goes off, yeah, trauma. So I've come to the conclusion that, and he said he tripped. Like, tripped on what? Your boots? Like, you fucking twat. So basically, I've come to the conclusion that between that jackass and the guy that shot Patrick Luoya in the back of the head, these sons of bitches must have zero trigger discipline. Or they never take their finger off.
They're just doing the warrior thing, which, by the way, I got to say, speaking on this in a related topic to this, I saw I was actually encouraged to see this. It's a new gun nut thing. Yeah, gun nuts are always about like, well, how do you like conceal holster, like quick draw holster, all these other things. And I'm looking at this one, and it's a waistband holster. Except where are you supposed to put it? Right here.
Awesome. I can't wait.
So many of you all are gonna blow your own dicks off.
I can't wait.
I can't argue with this. I promote this product. Please
Yes.
go ahead.
So do I. Absolutely. Let's yes. Absolutely. Yes. Who are you? We are the redneck army of the Unsullied. And how did you get that way? So
wow. No.
Yes, thank you. Anyway, David, what's on your mind here at the top of the show?
So one of the things that's been bugging me recently is the interest rate hike. Now, I understand most of you probably don't know why you should give a shit about this. I went and bought a car today, and the reason I gave
that's right. I meant to ask you about your new car.
Is because my car, obviously, I don't have 15,000K just lying around. I have to finance part of it. Well, how do you determine part of the finance charge? And part of that is the prime rate. And for those of you who don't know how this works, under U.S. law, after the Great Depression and when all these banks ceased to exist and everyone's money in them just ceased to exist, banks are required to have around 10% of their deposits on hand every day at close of business. Close of business for them is 11:59. So the way it works is this. Your bank lends out a lot more than 10% of its deposits. Everyone's bank lends out more than 10% of its deposits. So every night at 11:58, those banks borrow from the Federal Reserve to cover their deposits. They then have to pay that money back at an interest rate. That's what prime rate is. Whatever the Fed says the prime rate is, that's what the bank owes an interest when it has to pay back the money at 12:01 a.m. in the morning, which is how that works. They borrow the money at 11:58. They pay it back at 12:01 with the interest rate. So my problem is this. So Powell is looking at this saying, well, we're going to raise the prime rate, right? That's what happens when the Fed quote unquote raises interest rates. What they're doing is raising the prime rate. So they're raising interest rates, but the problem is, who is it actually? This has become the problem when wealth inequality gets to the level that it's at right now. Is that ironically, the poor need more access to capital. The issue has become how much access to capital the wealthy have already. So yes, will the prime rate slow down inflation? Yes, because the people who are most using the capital in terms of raw numbers, which are the wealthy, Elon Musk, GM, Ford, all these, Blackstone Capital, all the rest of them, they're the ones reliant on cheap money to go out and make more money and more money and more money.
And when they get threatened with not having shitloads of that money, they do weird shit and change their plans.
They really do.
It blew my mind that a client did that, a real estate-oriented client of mine. Oh, well, we're going to change it. We're going to sell the lots instead of building houses and selling the subdivision. Why? Because the rate went up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So now we're going to subdivide exactly how the fuck rich we're going to be here. It's mind blowing. Also, quick shout out, Kelly is here. Hey, Kelly, how's it going? Good to see you tonight. David talk money. Mark go.
Hey, Mark, stay awake and learn you something, asshole.
Also, that's why it's a hot take quickie. He won't be at it for very long,
no,
ladies.
So I mean, the stupid part of it is this. It's hurting poor people more than it hurts rich people when we do this. I really am looking at this situation and thinking, it's time that we need to start thinking about how we apply the prime rate in the market and whether or not the federal government needs to get involved and say, okay, wait. Prime rate can apply to, houses over $500,000, loans over $500,000 of any kind. We don't need to be applying prime rate and some of this to first-time home buyers of small homes.
Right.
The places where the economy has room to grow because these people who've been making money hand over fist by jacking up the prices now have an incentive to say, hey, how about instead of building nothing but McMansions, I build more affordable housing, right? That costs under $500,000
Imagine
that people
that.
can afford, and not have it be subject to this prime rate. It's right now. I understand what Powell is trying to do, but it's useless destruction. So there you go, Mark. I'm done. Fuck off.
Well, flipping over to some good news, David. There's a little bit of I'm not sure how to frame it. Erection wagging on the part of Ukraine.
Yeah. Right now, it
They're
looks
just out
like
there, like hey.
the long-awaited counteroffensive, which has been kind of slow to develop, is finally starting to develop. The Ukrainians are pushing really hard to retake Kherson in the south, which will open up the door for them to hopefully retake Crimea and put the Russians firmly on the defensive. Right now, they've crossed the river. They're making headway. They've got a strong beachhead on the other side of the Dnieper River, and they're pushing forward. And in large part thanks to Biden, right? Biden has been the one most, of all the world leaders, he's been the one most effective in terms of here's more artillery, here's more armored vehicles, here is more, more ammunition. It doesn't look like we're going to get around to actually getting them the planes, which is unfortunate, but understandable. But we may start heading in that direction now that we have had the time to start getting a training regimen going where Ukrainian recruits are actually going to NATO members to get trained, which would hopefully mean that they would be then able to fly NATO planes if some became available.
So what you're saying, David, is Uncle Joe did some stuff right that has helped Ukraine get a leg up.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I did not even he had that in his back pocket, but I'll be damned if he did.
Yeah, we're gonna have to make that one into one of our corner tags.
But yeah, so that's
definitely
really
gonna have to be a thing.
Yeah, that's really great news. The Ukrainians are pushing forward, and the Russians are continuing to run out of stuff to throw at them. So,
well, now that you're in such a good mood, let me fuck it up and bring up your favorite skank ass hoe in the GOP, or sorry, the GQP. Let's use proper nouns. So you mentioned earlier that Lauren Boebert had done some shit to get under your skin again, and I assume it wasn't rekindling her escort services.
Things that make you go, ooh.
Mark just woke up to rejoin us. We're totally about to get into that. Trust us, buddy.
Mark, you know what? Your financial institution must love you a bunch because that interest rate has got to look neat.
Just sign here and here, sir. So right. what did Hobart do?
So she went off about so for those of you, and we're going to get into this a little bit later. So a couple of things. Obviously, the Supreme Court has been very busy, and we're going to get into that here in a second. But she went off about, well, it's, the only reason we have separation of church and state is because of one stinking letter from the founding fathers. First of all, what? Second of all, this is now becoming the line in the GQP of, hey, let's do away with separation of church and state. Holy shit. Yeah. I don't want to make this clear. As a Christian, but belonging to a denomination that, the Catholics are cool with us, kind of, which is neat. Presbyterians and Lutherans are cool with us. That's cool. But not all the Presbyterians and Lutherans. But the Baptists definitely don't think I'm a Christian, right? I don't have magic. I don't have Pope magic like the Roman Catholics, and women and homosexuals can get married and be priests and all sorts of things, and we're generally nice, tolerant people. Um, the it's these people are going way off the fucking deep end. I don't. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's just another element of them trying to stoke further conflict, because the thing is, not even amongst all their followers, I can't imagine in many instances where besides abortion, where the Roman Catholic Church and the Southern Baptist Convention actually see eye to eye on most things. Now,
Right.
I will
Right.
grant you, the American Conference of Catholic Bishops has gone out of its way to be as wacky fascist as possible, um, and nurture that sort of, oh, we're all on the same team. But the thing is, beyond that, it's nothing. So I don't understand where these people don't imagine that they're going to stoke even further division in America, by this idea that, oh, we're going to do away with the separation of church and state, because we can do that now because, well, we're going to go into that. I'm going
Yeah,
to let Lucas lead
it
us
fits
off.
the agenda. It fits the agenda for later. And also, I want to clarify my my commentary on Bobert. I'm 100% down with hoes and sex workers of all stripes, unless your ass is a pistol packing right wing twat. Then you're just a hypocrite. Also,
You'd be
on the
surprised how
hello
many.
list, Beth is here. Hello, Beth. Good to see you.
Hi, Beth.
And I love that Mark has not been able to pick a platform, so we're getting him from YouTube and from Facebook, and I'm totally here for it. That's fine. But yeah, so it's been a lot. And for those that didn't get to see it, you did a little solo deal the other night. David wanted me on there, and I just honestly, I just needed a fucking break. I was like, I can't keep talking about it and then talk about it on Tuesday. It's not going to work out.
I had the time, and therefore I did it. Although some new developments.
And Beth,
have
you are
arrived.
not late. You are right on time. And don't worry, the only death sentences around here are handed out by bad Supreme Court choices.
Yep.
So let's see. Did you say that because your cat is working the pole in front of your house? That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know if you saw this, David, but our cat, like the other day, we just look over there and she has flown up half the fucking phone pole next to the neighbors, and we're like, for anything to cause Jesse to out loud and echo through the neighborhood, what the fuck? She's over there in the rocking swing and like, what the fuck? And I'm like, what? It's been wild. Mark, the hypocrisy that she allegedly had 2 abortions in his pro. You know what though? All these motherfuckers. Look at Scott Desjardins down there in TN. I don't even know where the fuck his gerrymandered district is anymore, but that piece of shit keeps getting elected.
Here's one of the things that this is a moment of encouragement for me. The J6 hearings, I don't think are going to move the needle by more than 1 or 2 points, no matter what they do. I mean, if we actually get some prosecutions out of this, maybe another 1 or 2 points. So we're looking at max maybe 5 points total nationally, which is not enough. Where I am kind of hopeful is this: the worst nightmare for every suburban housefrau who would otherwise vote Republican and pro-life is this: little Susie Rottencrotch, 16 years old, whom mommy and daddy haven't provided with birth control yet, and they haven't really bothered to teach her about condoms. Starts waking up every morning throwing up, and then mom knows what's up.
But David,
and
don't you
then
know that
all of a sudden now under row, mommy and little Susie could go to the doctor quietly and have that problem resolved. Now, nope, because your little suburban middle class income is not going to afford you getting on a plane and flying to California and New York at the drop of a hat, right? And staying in a hotel for 4 or 5 days, and then flying back. Not only that, but everyone's going to know Like, oh, Susie was gone for 5 exact days. Where'd you go, Susie?
They're gonna know. They're not gonna know.
Right?
It's the meme.
So, I mean, I think this is, I got to be honest. This is one of the things that I think actually does put points on the boards for Democrats because
Yeah.
especially in suburbia, that idea for that suburban mom that now all of a sudden, if the worst happens, they can't do anything to fix it.
But David, don't you know that if she tries hard and thinks real earnestly while she grabs the bleachers overhead, that she can resist the semen? Haven't you heard how sex works from old white men in Republican halls of Congress? Mark says, speaking of which, the polls, speaking of hoes and polls, polls close in Colorado soon. We are going to be watching that as we go. That'll be fun. How to piss off a Latin father. Your 5-year-old no longer has rights to her body. Yeah, so Beth is speaking about her better half, who is a Latino man that I would not fuck with, and I would love to unleash on any number of fucking politicians. Anyway, that brings us to the first break, ladies and gentlemen. And for those of us that have been here before, we all know how this goes. But for those that don't, we're going to do a little drinking tonight. That's part of the deal. If you've got them, pop them open. This first segment we call What You Drinking, and it's about what we start with on tonight's show.
Which of these did I have listed first?
Well, I don't. There's no first. It depends on what you have open.
You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and open the Pizza Planet.
There you go.
I haven't actually.
So this is the Tailgate Brewery Pizza Planet Triple New England Hazy IPA, and that's a mouthful. And it's about to be a mouthful. Look at that shit. I love how you go straight from a. What is that? It's not a howler because it's not short and stumpy.
It's a 32-ounce growler.
Growler because it's not big.
It is a growler. It's just a 32-ounce one. I mean, I have Fat Boy over here, but
oh yes, there it is. We discovered recently that a howler is exactly the right amount of beer to leisurely sit and drink on the front porch for an hour and a half or so. Just it's like 1 3/4 beers a piece. Just a nice leisurely, no real buzz. Anyway, so
you go ahead and go first. I've got to give this head obviously a moment.
So David is, as is rare, getting some head. So I'll jump in. So this is one of those things where Uncle Lucas comes back from a road trip and shares some notes. So I've been sipping on Beer Church Pontius Pilate IPA, and everybody knows I'm nuts about cans. In fact, I'm gonna jump myself over here to the big side, so as I can show you this can. So I love a good can design, and I like the fact that this goes so old school in the center artwork. Beer Church is a really interesting brewery in New Buffalo, Michigan. So it's not right down the road. It's a healthy amount of distance down the road. It's about an hour ish from where we live here in Grand Rapids, but it was a field trip because it was my Father's Day outing and I brought pictures. So,
oh Jesus,
David loves it when I share photos. So this is the cool thing. They built this brewery in an old church, and that just blows my mind. I was joking around on social media when we went, like, I finally found a church to attend now that we've relocated here to Michigan. But they built it in a church. That right-hand piece is the center room there. They've got a pizza oven in the back, and this really glorious double-decker outdoor thing going on next to it, like in what was the parking lot. And they only recently opened that on Memorial Day weekend, so they're still getting used to it. But it's insane how many people they can get in here. They are killing it. I love their slogan, drink, eat, repent, repeat. I bought a shirt, of course. And this dude at the bar, he was a real good sport. He was willing to model for me. I told him about the show. I said, your back will be on the internet. So we did a flight as usual. Some great looking beer, but let me tell y'all, the food, holy shit. We all know beer is like beer is a people pleaser thing for me. Food is the way to my heart. Look at this shit. So The left is just their bread, and it's a church themed location, but this bread is a fucking religious experience. And inside that little bulbous swell of glorious fucking cheese, you pop that open and it's just squishy, spreadable mozzarella. It was one of the best damn basic appetizers I've ever seen on a menu. And then, believe it or not, on the right, that's a pizza. That was I forgot the name of it, but it was a fruit-based sauce pizza that had the sweet and savory combo and the prosciutto rolled up on top of each piece. Those that know that I only do white meat, I gave all the prosciutto to the lady, and she very much appreciated it. But that pizza was staggeringly good, and it had a little bite to it from the red pepper. And they make it all right there in a couple of different brick ovens. It's really, really cool. So if you ever find yourself in the vicinity of that triad border of Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, up in there, right at the bottom of Lake Michigan, New Buffalo is where they're located. It was a great spot. It is a absolutely necessary Midwestern destination for beer lovers and food lovers. So now, has your head happened? Have you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, describe your beer. Describe your beer. And
oh, right. Yeah, I spent too much time. So
yeah.
I mean, well, so the caveat to this is their mainstay. They're one of their big known brands. It's just a good IPA. It's a good New England hazy IPA. There's nothing specifically mind-blowing about it, and there's nothing shitty about it. It's a great, stable, dependable, fantastic hazy. And so that's really the rundown. It is a Civil War era church. I love that. Brief role as an improvised armory during a time of
the beer. I don't know what the fuck.
And then they don't really have a lot more to say about the beer, man. It's just straightforward, fucking beautiful beer and true pizza. That's the angle.
I'll go ahead and actually describe my beer. I actually had
a little more to describe there.
I actually had to cheat. I had to while you were doing picture show, I had to spoon off some of the head.
That's why you turned around. He was turned around. I couldn't tell what he was doing. I just gave him the benefit of the doubt.
I was spooning off some of the head because it wasn't going to go down anytime soon. But I'm bump ching. It's this is interesting for a hazy. I'm not a big hazy fan. I don't normally drink a lot of hazies simply because I find that they try and mix too much with what should otherwise be a pretty simple policy. Like I really want to try that Pontius Pilot because it sounds like it's a very simple, straightforward IPA. I find a lot of time when people are making hazies, they overcomplicate them, and I'm not a huge fan.
Or they try to go so far into juicy hazy that they fuck with it too much. Yeah.
So this is actually pretty juicy, but I feel like they were limited by the amount of alcohol that's in it, which is this is about 8.5%.
That's pretty big.
Yeah,
this one's a 7.2, and I thought that was pretty respectably.
I mean this has got a pretty strong. Yeah, I mean but you don't get a huge alcohol in those, but I think it does come across with a lot of citrus and not as much of the pine. But I mean, in terms of actually being juicy, this is juicy. Which again is normally something if I wanted juice, I'd fucking drink juice. If I wanted beer, I'd fucking drink beer.
I've had to hear this complaint a few times in person.
Right.
A lot of times at Tailgate, because Tailgate does a really good job with a variety of IPAs.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't remember where you originally taught me to respect and appreciate IPAs. Because when I met David, if he had proposed an IPA, I'd be like, fuck you, fuck that, fuck it all, no. And then he got me to understand what is a good IPA like. And you're the guy that I would credit with my education on IPAs. I have other friends I can credit for stout education and all that, but we've had many a time at Tailgate when we were trying all 6 at any given time of the IPA treatments on the menu. And there were definitely times when I heard your lecture, like, if I wanted juice, I'd drink fucking juice.
Right? I mean, here's the thing. I am a bit of a purist when it comes to beer, mostly because I feel like far too many breweries actually. I mean, in the same way, you'll love this, Mark. In the same way that I get angry at a lot of economists and market analysts for not going back to the basics. I mean, like, read Adam Smith, read Friedman, read Hayek,
Yeah.
read von Mises, read the greats. I mean, fucking hell, just go back and read the stuff that people wrote. Read Kynes, please read Kynes. In the same way that I get mad at people about not going back to the basics, a lot of breweries I really wish would go back to the basics and really just make. And actually, Tailgate, I noted, is actually coming out with a series. It's just like, hey, this is a basic IPA. This is nothing fancy. This is a basic IPA. This is a basic, pale ale. This is a basic lager. We're not doing anything fancy. It's just us. That's one of the reasons why Bavarian beer for the longest time had like this huge reputation, because everyone just had to do their very best at the basics.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
I really wish American brewers would take a page out of that and say, okay, I can make a stout that tastes like, canned shrimp with, chili sauce and burnt plastic. I can. The question is, should you?
So since we're talking about tailgate, that brings us all the way back to that one fateful day. That one fateful St. Patty's Day with that damn Lucky Charms St. Patty's beer.
Oh God, I still give them shit about that every chance I get. Every chance I get.
And you know what? Tonight, I'll talk about this on the other beer break more. But tonight, I tried a Tootsie Roll Stout, and we're going to leave it there. We'll talk about that later on.
Fair enough.
But yeah, that was a thing. So let's get into it, ladies and germs. So for those that have not checked us out in a little while, we did change the format around on the show a little while back. So what we do is we start off with a smaller topic that is something that's kind of close to one of our hearts at the time, and then we get into the big shit. And today I'm going first because where we are, you all got to hear the whole hour from David on the ruling. But as you know, there are a bunch of states that are, I don't know the best way to categorize this, frothing at the mouth, standing in the wings, and just waiting for their best opportunity to oppress the women folk. And up here in Michigan, we have a 1931, and I want to pause, 1930, I want everyone to digest, 1930 fucking one law. Now, granted, there are plenty of laws from the 1800s that are coming back, but if there's one thing you wouldn't think back on in America, it would be, boy howdy, it was great for women in 1931.
Right in the middle of the Great Depression.
So a 1931 law that makes abortion a felony in the state of Michigan. And where we're at, and where so many things in so many states are at, is the pending, the sword of Damocles, just dangling the pending.
Just let me know if you want to know the history behind why it got passed in 1931, because I can tell you that. I'm
gonna want you to unload on that. The sword of Damocles, the confusion, and that's the big place that we are right now, is the confusion. So the governor has said, anything I can do. This is Gretchen Whitmer. She's one of Trump's favorite targets. She's governor, fix the damn roads. She's running for re-election. She needs all the moms in Michigan to vote for her so she can win. You better bet your ass she's on top of this as much as she can be. There's a lawsuit running. There's an injunction keeping this shit from taking effect. And then there's, back to my favorite fucking foil lately, Kent County prosecutor Chris fucking GQP fucking Becker saying, well, I really can't guarantee that we wouldn't charge anybody. Law is law, and if it's the law, we're going to need to charge people. So essentially,
unless it's about guns, at which point he
finds
himself absent. Yeah.
Or, a cop murders somebody by shooting them in the back of the head. He's going to him and haw about that one for a while. But this is Becker doing the normal routine that I've realized that he does, which is the entire greasy, hairy forearm of everything that the GQP is, all the way the fuck up his anus, running his mouth like a fucking ventriloquist dummy. And that's where he is. And so right now there's a lot of confusion. There was one hospital system that came out and said, 1931 law, I'm sorry, can't do shit. And then like 2 days later, they're like, never mind, backpedal, governor said stuff. And, like, everybody's in fucking disarray. And this is just one of 50 states where shit is all kinds of bananas. Tell us what was special about 1931, sir.
So 1931, Great Depression had just happened. And the people who still had money had a problem, which is just less than 10 years earlier, then this really nifty thing that happened in Russia. 1918 revolution. Communists took power in the midst of economic chaos and war. So these guys were now all of a sudden being like, well, shit, we just threw a bunch of people out of their homes. There's a bunch of people on the bread lines. We might have a problem. Well, what's the antithesis of communism? Well, in our very narrow understanding of actual politics or morality or anything else, it's religion. So all of a sudden you get these traveling preachers with fairly fat bankrolls wandering around the country preaching religion, because you can't be communist if you love God. So how do we get an anti-abortion law in 1931? I'm willing to bet it's traveling preachers whipping folks up.
It's the snake oil of law. It really is. So that's where we're at up here. Tonight, the way that we ended up at the brewery that I'll talk about in the second beer break, they hosted a petition signing. So there are 3 petitions going around Michigan right now. I don't know if they're all for ballot measures. I actually haven't dialed into that, but one would be a law protecting a woman's right to choice. Another is about protecting access to the vote, and another one is about minimum wage. I think is minimum wage. It might be pay something, but anyway, all 3 good, signed, done. So we went to a signing event for that tonight.
Let's clarify this. Do you have a initiative system or a referendum system?
I think it's initiative, but actually I don't have a solid answer for that one. And there are different wordings at the top of different ones.
Just so everyone understands the difference, what a good number of Western states have referendum systems, which a referendum system says if a majority of people sign a petition, something has to go on the ballot, and if the majority of people vote for it, that now becomes law. An initiative system, which is what a lot of states east of the Mississippi have, especially those west of Pennsylvania. Iowa has an initiative system. Kansas has an initiative system. Those are, we vote that the legislature has to take a vote on this subject. Missouri has that, and that's been a big point of contention in Missouri, because Missourians voted to raise the minimum wage and expand Medicare, and the legislature was forced to vote on it, and they voted it down.
Petition.
So it's an initiative-based system. So it goes to the legislature, where the legislature is required by law to vote on the matter.
Michigan citizens can file a petition with the state government to establish a new law, repeal a newly enacted law through a referendum, or amend the state's constitution.
But it has to be voted on by the legislature.
Proposals that will appear on the November ballot. That's where we're at. Yeah.
Because like in Tennessee, the people can get together and say, we demand that something be voted on, but it's up to the legislature to actually vote on the matter, and the legislature can still vote it down.
Right.
And I believe Michigan has the same system.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. At
Because
this point,
it's very uncommon for states, for states east of the Rockies, especially east of Mississippi, to have a referendum system.
well, at this point, we not only have those petitions in the mix, but we have the first pro-choice female candidate opposing Representative Peter Meyer, and that the person working that campaign was out there tonight as well. Peter Meyer, for those that don't know, if you're in the Midwest, he's part of the very extremely, immensely, obscenely wealthy Meyer family that you would be familiar with by way of the grocery store brand. For those in the South, this would be like having the Waltons involved in your political and power structure via Walmart. It's exactly the same. Meyer is actually just like Walmart, except it's not as shitty of a place to work or shop. I'll give them that much.
They probably also don't have their own spy agency. How you doing, Walmart?
Yeah, really. And so Peter Meyer, I had deemed as a kind of middle of the road conservative, not entirely dangerous, somewhat likable little ginger Opie. But then he tweeted some fucking horse shit last week about today is a huge victory for life in the United States. Like, okay, well, fuck off, Opie.
It's because he's good. I mean, a lot of Republicans are getting a lot of pressure to support this.
They are, and he's definitely not immune. But now he's being opposed by somebody whose sign I will probably immediately put in my fucking yard. I signed her list. I'm sure her people will call me.
And listen, if I were in your district, I would literally do anything I possibly could to make Betsy DeVos sweat fucking blood.
Well, I kind of do that when I go down to the commission, or just at this point, because the DeVosses have so much going on in this town. At this point, I've started to twist the names of the powerful people in this town into standard issue terminology. Like I made a comment on a Facebook post in one of the news articles or community groups last week that said, but they don't care about the poor. They're just looking down from the top of their ivory towers, and they don't give a Van Dam. And that was a reference to the DeVos and Van Andel background. It drives it home for every American if you explain Van Andel is the family that started Amway.
The pun level is just, come on, step up your game, dude. You do marketing. Jesus,
I can't win them all. It was pretty fucking funny though.
Yeah, but you can try not to like lose it like the men's soccer team.
Right. Yeah. By the way, Brian's here. Hi, Brian. Good to see you, bud. And Olivia, I'm glad at least my state's been working on this stuff for a while. We have ballot measure in November to amend the state constitution to specifically protect reproductive rights. And you know what's interesting is shit seems to move through better in Vermont. And then I looked at the population and realized it has fewer people than the city of Nashville. That could have something to do with it. But bless the hearts of any fucking little state that can do those
little
thing.
Maple syrup chugging bastards.
Yeah, right. That's the one thing I wasn't very good at when we were up in Vermont was trying enough tree sugar. Amway, America's IKEA. I don't know if I'd go that far because IKEA.
No, because IKEA actually has standards
and quality to some extent. Amway is
it's also not a cult.
Take this shit and sell it to your other friends, and it's weird. I hate that too because they've got some interesting jobs out there, but
I learned from that was my first attempt at a job out of college. Was one of those fucking pyramid schemes. I didn't know it was a pyramid scheme.
Oh,
I'll tell you the thing that broke me though was
this like when we all discovered, well, not we all, but a certain half of us that watch or participate in this show discovered Columbia House? Is this your Columbia House story?
No, this was not with Columbia House. This was with Sidcor, but one of Sidcor's subsidiaries.
That sounds awful. I don't even know what the fuck it is. It sounds terrible.
Sidcor sells. Here's the thing: Sidcor sells everything, and I was selling massively marked up, oversold AT&T long distance plans door to door.
Oh God.
And the thing that broke me was this. I managed to sell a $400 plan to this car repair shop. It was how I had to do it, though. The wife was Afrikaans. For those of you who watch this show, me and the Boers have fucking issues. That one in particular, that fucking Boer in particular. For those of you who don't know, Boers are white South Africans. I imagine that there are some non-racist Boers.
But he hasn't found them yet.
No.
Yeah. So he gets his musk hate boner nice and throbby and purple, and then he goes and beats the entire Afrikaans population with it.
Right. No, I mean, but that's how I had to sell this. That's how I had to sell this plan. Is I had to be a racist motherfucker to convince this bitch to buy this plan. She's like, "Oh, you get me?" I'm like, "Oh, you're Afrikaans." Okay. Oh, because I'm trying to make the sale, right?
Right.
So I'm trying to establish personal connection. Hey, I know where you're from.
It sounds dirty as fuck.
You don't still owe Columbia House. Columbia House no longer exists, and they're
I love that Olivia actually went to a Kirby Vacuums interview. I somehow managed to avoid falling for that, but holy shit, were they active for a while? At some point,
when I was in undergrad, it was Cutco.
Oh, was it the knife thing?
Yeah, Cutco knives.
Holy shit! Wow, it's kind of mind-boggling. And here's what really sucks is like, I'm really comfortable and love my job, but like for the right thing and the right amount of money, I mean, it is what it is. And I look at Amway and they have like an art director role, and I'm like, oh, that would be kind of cool. Because what I really honestly fucking want at this point is art director, creative director, something like that. It's for makeup. It's like their version of Avon. Like I can't get my head around that.
Yeah. No. That at least in the South, that's what Amway has always been famous for. Is
really?
Makeup. Yeah.
Huh. I thought Avon pretty much owned everybody's ass.
No, Avon is the high class version. Avon is Cheatham County. If you're going to Grundy,
gotcha,
or Sevier County, Tennessee, Avon doesn't go out there. There's no one earning a pink Cadillac out in Grundy County.
So okay, so Brian, he says I sold Kirby successfully. My soul is stained.
Exactly.
Let me say something. Let me say something about Brian. There isn't a not even finite. There isn't a finite or imaginary product that Brian couldn't successfully sell anybody. I used to work with this guy, and my favorite thing, and I've quoted him for years. So we worked together at an Apple dealer, and I was fortunate enough to be the marketing manager, hiding in the back. But I would walk through because if you had to take a piss, you had to walk through the sales floor. So I would hear Brian because he was loud fucking dude over everybody. This was back when we were on political opposites of the spectrum. We would fight like cats and dogs in the back hallways. He was a Rush guy, and I was a Clinton guy. I mean, you can imagine. We had the most fun, but the biggest debates.
Lucas is that fucking old, ladies and gentlemen.
So I would overhear him when people would complain, well, there's not a lot of software for the Mac, and I had to come here to get it. And Brian had this line, which is one of my favorite fucking lines in the history of sales. Yeah, but how many genealogy programs do you really need? And he was fucking right about that. Because that's the reality of Windows software is, yeah, there's a lot more because there's a lot of redundant fucking trash. And I loved that I would hear him say that to people. I'm not surprised. Brian could sell a heap of shit to an actual anus. I mean, he
up until like OS 10.4. I will say this about Macs. I say this as a Mac user currently broadcasting. I mean, we're both broadcasting from Macs, but up until about 10.4. Every single time you turned around, the more consistent, better software option would always exist on Mac. me and Carbon Copy Cloner are going to have a fucking fight here in a moment. But anyway, we are so way the fuck off topic.
But we've only spent like 5 minutes doing it. We're doing great on time because we have arrived at the very, very crucial point.
Well, before we do that, I want to touch on one other thing that's developed with this Roe v. Wade decision. So, one thing that's emerged in the past couple of days. So right before this Roe v. Wade decision, the court found that New York and New Jersey, all these other states, could not put the limits that they had on concealed carry, open carry laws that they had in their states. Now, here's the problem. So for those of you who haven't read some of my posts that I've been putting up, I haven't been putting them up as much on Brewing Controversies as I should, but on my own personal page. So here's the deal. The 14th Amendment guarantees equal rights to all citizens. And that's great. It says everyone who's a citizen of a state is a United States citizen, and every citizen has equal rights under the law. You can't offer rights to one citizen and not to another.
Right.
The reason, and there was a whole process that had to happen, because before like 1920, right? If you were hauled before a state court, let's say I stood out on a corner in Nashville in 1921 and said, the Bible is a lie. Jesus sucks cocks in hell, something like that. I don't know. I could be arrested.
My favorite part is the street corner in Nashville in 1921, and my mental image is like among all the whores and gamblers. I mean, like,
right?
Like the mental image of street corner in Nashville from any like downtown civilized locations, pretty much trash. But
right,
keep going.
Yeah, that's how we made our money. But that riverboat comes in, people get off. And then they get off. But I mean, I could be arrested and hauled before a state court, and I could say, well, the First Amendment guarantees me freedom of speech. At which point the state court could say, that's great. That's the federal constitution. The state constitution of the state of Tennessee doesn't give freedom of speech.
Right.
Waterfront Dave is at it again. Yes. I've got my
sandwich. Call you Waterfront Dave. I think that's going to be your new name. It's Waterfront Dave, ladies and gentlemen.
So I've got my sandwich board and everything. So the Supreme Court had to go through this entire process called incorporation, right? Where they said bit by bit, case by case, nope. First Amendment is part of the U.S. Constitution. It grants rights to U.S. citizens. Is this a citizen of the state? Yes. Then they are a U.S. citizen, and they have this right. This was an entire process. The last one to be incorporated was the Second Amendment. That was in the mid-aughts with what was called the Heller decision, right? That said, no, the Second Amendment and our bastard fucking interpretation of it, which entirely excludes the first clause of the whole fucking amendment about a well-regulated militia.
But that's another show. We've done that show, anyway, and we'll do that show again.
Yeah, we will. But I mean, the whole problem is, so it's incorporation, right? The 14th Amendment guarantees this right. So, but the 14th Amendment doesn't explicitly say it guarantees that right. It just says U.S. citizens have this right. So here's the problem that the Supreme Court has created. The day before they decided Roe v. Wade, they decided the 14th. They again under the 14th Amendment, because it requires the 14th Amendment to enforce the second. Right? I can't enforce the Second Amendment without the 14th Amendment. That was why we made the whole fucking 14th Amendment. I can't enforce the Second Amendment without the 14th Amendment. So I'm going to grant all these people gun rights under the Second Amendment, and I'm able to do so under the 14th Amendment. But then I'm going to turn around and say the 14th Amendment doesn't apply to the federal government. In other words, I can't use this, and therefore states have controlling authority. So what the Supreme Court has done, and the Washington Post said it best, they've created the ultimate legal chaos. No one knows what the hell to do now. Because on one hand, the 14th Amendment is supposed to be the thing that enables Roe v. Wade, right? Because the whole idea of the 14th Amendment is it makes everyone equal. And the court has repeatedly said, well, people can't be equal unless they have a right to privacy, which isn't explicitly in the Constitution. But because the 14th Amendment exists, we assume that there are these other implied rights, because without these implied rights, you can't enjoy any of the first 9 rights granted in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights.
Correct.
Right? You can't enjoy any of these. So,
and for me, like, I'm ready to do it all, man. Like, okay, you don't have a right to privacy, then I get to know about every one of your guns. Fuck you.
Well, I mean, but and that's the problem, is which is controlling? Is the 14th Amendment controlling? Or do we still have incorporation on? Because honestly, if I'm the New York State Legislature or the New York State AG, I'm going to turn around and say, no, I'm not changing the law. And I'm going to be sued, and I will show back up in the Supreme Court and said, you said there's no more incorporation. You said the 14th Amendment doesn't apply anymore, so here's your choice. Either you admit right here, right now, that you're a bunch of conservative hacks who are just making shit up as you go along, right?
And boy, howdy they are.
I mean, I here's the deal. This is a reason why I will never appear before the Supreme Court, because I would say that verbatim. I would look at the justices verbatim and be like, listen, you can either.
I don't know, David, if you play your cards right, the pay-per-view access to an internet stream for that discussion could make you rich. That's an excellent case.
The Supreme Court doesn't allow videotape inside the chamber.
I never said you had to be open about it, but that's
yes,
a really good place to start our segue.
Pay-per-view would be amazing, because
that's a good place to start our segue. Real quick,
charges.
Sharma's here. Sharma's been kind enough to join us as a guest host on the show. Hi, Sharma. Good to see you. Hi. Trying to hold down the fort, aka rights in Kansas. Absolutely, and bless you.
Jesus Christ.
You're just in time for us to crack open some more of the giggle juice. So, ladies and gentlemen, the way this works is when we transition to our big topic of the evening, we get further into the can, the bottle, the growler, the stein. So if you've got another round coming, crack yours open and pour it tall, because it is another round.
You go first.
So,
I'm gonna have to
David, well, if you make me go first, I'm going to do Uncle Lucas's travel journal.
Just go ahead and fucking do it. I got to chug this. Apparently, if I'm going to put more beer in this shit.
That's a good point. Oh, my God. Or you got to make a weird concoction. So tonight.
No, we're not doing that. I'm not doing that to Calf Killer.
No, don't do that. Tonight I took a little excursion to Brewery Vivant. Now, I'm going to talk about Brewery Vivant as a physical location, but the brand of the beer that I'm drinking is the sister brewery that is brewed in the same location. So it's a little complicated. You got Broadleaf and you got Brewery Vivant. David's mega pint. I love it. So tonight, Brewery Vivant hosted a petition signing, as I mentioned earlier, for folks to sign mostly the pro-choice petition here in Michigan, but also some others. And they were doing drink tickets, so it was great. You get a beer. We went in, sat down at the bar, had a flight, and picked out a couple faves, had a couple pints, ate some incredibly good pretzels. They have some soft pretzel bread there that it's smack your mama. It's real good. But the interesting thing is, David, the world is upside down, as we know. But it's even worse than you thought. Are you ready? I'm encountering sours that I like.
I mean, you should because you're not an idiot and you can actually find.
But I've always been
Listen,
able to tell
if I
people-
can find white wine that I can drink and not like want to spit back in everyone's face, you can find a sour that you can fucking drink.
and that's happening next week. If I remember to go get it, I will have another sour from another fave here locally.
Oh Jesus!
But tonight, it's Broadleaf Sour Lake, which is ultimately at the Brewery Vivant location. And it's a guava passion fruit orange. And it's so fucking good. So here we go. I'm gonna give close up because when it comes to me being a dork about beer labels, I'm really a little over the moon. And I've only known this one for like 3 hours. But look at this. First of all, they have their cool little skull logo thing. But here's the thing that blew me away. I picked this up out of I did a little mix and match 4-pack. And I pulled this out of the cooler. And here's what got me, David. You see it? Do you see it? You can't feel it, but do you see it?
It's Braille.
It's fucking Braille. And it's not just dots. It's goddamn Braille. And that is too fucking cool. I don't know the story behind it. I don't know why it's there. I don't know anything other than it's cool as fuck. But I do love their very retro-friendly typeface. I love that there's a little map to the brewery in the design, which is kind of cool.
Oh, cool.
Why
am I echoing so bad on your side?
From a design standpoint, they kind of killed it. And they go into like this artsy thing on one side. Like there's all sorts of fabulous stuff. But if you turn it upside down, brewed and canned by Broadleaf Brewery Spirits, 925 Cherry Street, which is the same spot basically that we visited for Brewery Vivant. On the flavor side, this is I'm finding that if you keep your sour in the realm of lemonade, Lucas likes it. It's very guava. There's a touch of the passion fruit. And then I would say the orange is on the back side. But it's almost like everything that we grew up with as candy has become a beer. Because this is like a sour gummy.
Have you tried Honky Tonk's Berliner Weiss?
No.
So
Or, you know, if I have, I don't remember, and it hasn't been within the last couple of years.
Like so Berliner Weiss, as for those of you who don't know, Berliner Weiss is a I'm going to turn down my volume because I'm getting a ton of echo.
It's not your volume, it's just random internet shit. You sound great to me.
Fair. Berliner Weiss as a method. So Berliner Weiss in Germany is just kind of like a wheat beer. Berliner Weiss in America, especially in the South, is I take this wheat beer and then I throw a bunch of other shit in it. And it becomes a sour by virtue of the amount of stuff that I've thrown in it. There's a couple of very good Berliner Weisses out of Southern breweries, which are basically sours, except they're technically Berliner Weisses in the way that they're brewed.
Gotcha.
And they have really amazing fruit flavors. They're super refreshing, especially when it's 100 fucking degrees outside. You know, part of the I'm not just sweating because of the beer. It's also because it's 80 fucking degrees up in my office. I have a fan directly pointed at me,
and it's 80 Southern degrees because here it's low 80s, but it feels great.
Yeah, here it's 100% humidity all the fucking time. You know, they actually came out with a new measure. It turns out the wet bulb temperature for humans is actually about 89 degrees, which means that the South exists perpetually in a state of dying.
Fuck that. Well, let me jump into Uncle Lucas's field trip notes. Here is a little bit from tonight. So this is Brewery Vivant over on Cherry Street here in Grand Rapids. And look at all these commie, liberal, baby-killing, tree fucking motherfuckers signing petitions tonight, including a guy right there in the foreground in a Founders Bicycle Race shirt, which I thought was kind of fun.
That's
But this
exactly
place,
what I'm looking at. Is
this
the
place
guy
was packed.
not looking at that at all?
Yeah, I'm sure you're looking at the girl in the purple shorts on the left, or
Yep, you called it. Good job.
but no, this was a great crowd. I really found it refreshing that this brewery is pretty much down with the forward thinkers. And then this is us at the end of the bar, and I got to tell you, I'm on a theme this week of going into churches to drink some beer. So this place, I asked the bartender, okay, I just went to beer church. It's a church converted to a fucking brewery. And what's the deal with this place? Did you build it this way, or was it already designed like this? And she informed me the best part of this. It used to be a funeral chapel. So the architecture was already there. It looks like a Vegas version of a cathedral, right? Try to ignore Weird Al there in
Actually,
the corner.
it looks like Christ Cathedral downtown. Is what
Doesn't it?
like,
And the
it's really
bar,
close.
the bar is the same shape as that arch, but I
Yeah.
couldn't get that in a photo. But this bartender, and I don't know her name, and I probably wouldn't use it here just in case she's not, of the same stripe as we are, or her bosses might frown on it. Who knows? Don't want to get anybody in trouble. But she was fucking killing it. This was one of the better bartenders I've ever seen. That whole space was all her, and she was doing it all, and like a boss. It was really good. We had a great experience. It's a really cool looking joint. So basically tonight, I'm on the beers that came from churchy looking places that happen to do beer now, and that is my my religious beer field trip excursion summary. So you, sir, you are into the Calf Killer, one of our mutual favorites from Tennessee, Sparta, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So
for those of you who don't know,
Wizard Sauce Farmhouse.
So Calf Killer is like one of the best kept secrets of Middle Tennessee for reasons that they would not like to be best kept secret because of. They had a bunch of financial issues, had to go to court for a long time. A couple of really great brothers who have set up a amazing brewery that produces really consistently great beer.
Couple of dudes and their wives. I mean, it's literally mom and pop. It's out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Google Sparta, Tennessee, if you don't believe me.
Yeah, I mean,
they never got to open their downtown tap room that was going to be in the old waterworks. So they're still out on their farm. And essentially, if you show up at random, like my ass did on a random trip to the outskirts, you drive into a gravel driveway, you walk into a tiny little, like, 2-room building, and you're greeted by one of the wives who will show you around, sell you some merch, give you some samples. It's just a fucking amazing homegrown space. And in case you're wondering, it's on the Calf Killer River. That's where the name came from.
And again, they make consistently great stuff. So here's one of the things, and I say this as someone who earlier, if you were watching, gave a whole speech on going back to basics. This is back to basics. Farmhouse Saison. The only criticism I have from this is maybe we could have gone a little more than basic on this. I mean, the front end is classic Farmhouse Saison. It's got that little piney. It's got a very light piney note, and then this sort of neutral wheat, sort of almost lager note. The only thing I don't like about this is it just quits at the end. Right? It
just
has
falls
a front.
off.
It has a front. It has a middle, and then it just disappears literally into water at the end. Which here's the thing, though. Honestly, if you have to disappear into something, that's not the worst thing to disappear into.
That's a fair point.
I mean, I've definitely had beers like. There are beers that rely on their finish, like I keep on singing the praises of Gypsy Circus's Nashville Hot Chicken Cider, right? Because the finish is constantly that hot super spice that hangs with you for a while. This does not hang with you. I mean, and the irony is that as at least in terms of the tradition of what a farmhouse saison is supposed to be, that's actually what a farmhouse saison is supposed to be. It's supposed to give you a front end, a middle end, and then go away.
That's a good point.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, ironically, this is very true to a very traditional, very customary version of how you would make a farmhouse saison. Again, and I say this somewhat mocking of myself from my earlier commentary. The only thing I'd want from it is maybe a little bit of note at the end, which
fair.
is contrary to to a basic farmhouse saison. But I mean,
Well,
as
you can try calf killer in a lot of places in Tennessee. It's distributed decently well,
I mean, not,
but I don't know if they have this one everywhere.
I mean, not as much these days. It's hard to find calf killer.
Did COVID kind of dial them back a little bit? You think?
It's that after their court fights, after all their financial fights that they've had with their investors, which you and I very clearly fucking understand. For those of you who don't know, Lucas and I used to be part of a business where we had to have a, which by the way, you're technically still listed as a director.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to abandon you. You get funding, and I'll be glad to do things and stuff. We all know this.
So the the only reason I keep that old company name alive is just so the assholes who destroyed it can't have it. I pay the state of Tennessee $60 a year just to tell them to fuck you. I pay GoDaddy $250 a year just to tell them to go fuck themselves.
Well, that pales in comparison to me registering 2 domains for 99 cents introductory specials that potentially boycott one of my commissioners.
Well, the thing is, unfortunately, the name of my old company is actually valuable,
right? Well, this guy's distillery has great value, and I deeply really admire it.
And I wish Calf Killer could get their feet underneath them. I really do.
There's a little part of it though. There's a little part of it that doesn't suck. That it's tiny and modest. And I'd never been to Sparta, so when I went down there to see these guys, I don't remember. It was probably 4 years ago. I was brought up taking trips to the Caney Fork River and the what's the fucking lake out there? What's the lake? The Caney Fork River.
Yeah.
And the lake at the dam. I can't remember the
I don't know. I just remember that's where all the fucking shallots would hang out, because you went up there to hang out. I went up there to fish. I
went up there to fish when I was a kid with my dad. Now I'm going to look it up because I really hate that I can't remember.
For those of you watching from other places, it's really hard to remember the names of lakes and rivers because the TVA created a bunch of our lakes and rivers.
Well, there are also a shitload of them.
We don't remember them because there's a lot of them, and we just have a bunch of dams everywhere that make random lakes.
The Edgar Evans State Park was a thing when I was a kid, and the geography of the area is that Sparta is just off the path from all of that. I took a little retreat.
Sparta is definitely bumfuck Egypt.
It is, but it's a really cool branch of bumfuck Egypt.
And again, for those of you who are up north who don't understand the reference, southern towns have a very bad tendency to be named after biblical things. So therefore, we refer to things out in the middle of nowhere as bumfuck Egypt because it probably has some name like Thebes or, And
I just gotta
some other place from the Bible.
I got like a producer whispering in my ear. I got a wonderful text message from someone watching saying Center Hill Lake. Center Hill Lake. That's the lake. Anyway, I was up there.
Okay, Center Hill. There we go.
I rented myself a little.
Is from the Cherokee, so
I rented myself a little cabin apartment. Took a weekend of solitary
why I was responding to that
relaxation. at the end of that trip, I decided to venture over to Sparta and check out Calf Killer. And I will say this, David, as much as it'd be great if they became a big deal, it's super cool that it's still the way it is, because you're driving into Sparta, and if you're like me, you stop and you stand in front of the Sparta sign and you make some kind of pose and you take a selfie and you caption it, "This is Sparta," and then you drive further down the road and you turn off on the road that they're on, and you're literally driving next to the Calf Killer River. There's a brand experience to it, which I'm sure they haven't had they may not understand it, but they also haven't had the time or resources to invest in it. You literally drive the route of the river that they're named for to get to their brewery. It's a real cool experience.
I gotta say this:
brewer tourism, you got to go there and check it out.
The more I drink this, the more it's growing on me. It really is. Because here's the thing that I'm learning is that it doesn't feel like there is anything in the back, but as you drink it begins to happen. Like as
it build on itself, kind of.
It's building on itself. It's kind of cool. Like again, everything Calf Killer makes is fucking amazing. I'm not a big brown ale fan. Like Jackalope makes a pretty good one. Calf Killer makes a better one, without question. Everything they make is absolutely fucking fantastic, and the more I drink this, because it's a saison, right? It's supposed to be, you're supposed to continue drinking it, and the thing that I'm finding that as I continue to drink this is that the astringent qualities in the beer continue to build the more I drink it. So like right now,
it builds on itself.
I started out at like up here at the top of the plate, right? And now I'm down here. And the thing is, I'm still getting, there's a flavor that's building in the back of my mouth. It's very lightly piney.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Which is exactly what, for those of you who don't know how a farmhouse should work, which is, you're supposed to drink a shit ton of this. Like this is supposed to be like, oh, I have one of these when I get off. Like the tradition of this is I would have one of these when I come off the fields, and one for dinner, and 2 more after, like this size, just to clarify.
From the barrels that are sitting in the barn.
From the barrels that are sitting in the barn.
Pop down on the nearest hay bale and swig it.
Yeah, like, or but it's continuing to build, and it's actually kind of cool how it's doing. Like, again, Calf Killer is just fucking amazing. Like, even when I want to criticize them for being like, oh, I wish I had something more at the back end, and now the more I drink it, I'm like, well, shit.
Turns out it's there. It's also one of my favorite local to Nashville beer brands. I still wear my Calf Killer shirt on a regular basis here.
Yeah, by the way, they have the most awesome fucking logo of any.
The logo is like it's a very simplified version of a dead fucking cow going.
Yeah,
and it's fucking classic. And I can't tell you, when I've worn that shirt, so many people walk up to me and they're like, "Hey, what is that?" Oh, it's a brewery back in Nashville, and you can't read the back of it anymore because I wear it so fucking much, but you should look it up.
I need to find some Calf Killer merch. Unfortunately, I can't wear it.
Take your new car,
right,
and drive to Sparta.
On what day off, you asshole?
with what affordable gas? Right. So speaking of homegrown,
I explicitly bought this car because it had like better gas mileage. Oh wait, where's Brian's fucking?
Speaking of homegrown, we've decided to include now, when we take our second break, we give a little bit of a nod to, especially here in my state where everything's legal, Brian's review of whatever he's into.
I don't know if that's an illusion, if that's a Nashville illusion. I want it to be a Nashville illusion.
No, I don't think it is. I think it's just...
I don't think it is either. For those of you who don't know, we had a mayor.
Wrong spelling.
wrong spelling, but we had a very good mayor who made one very poor choice with her choice of sexual partners,
I
and
mean, apparently it was a great choice for 3 out of 4 of the individuals in the
well,
particular.
exactly right.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's time now.
We are so over time. We have spent so much time. We
Well,
we, we actually
we're
need to
doing
get.
okay though. You know, in our higher limit, we've still got 40 minutes to bore the
This
shit
is
out of
true.
everybody.
On a higher limit, we
It's
do still
time
have
to talk about the big elephant in the room, and I like to say elephant in the room because we're usually bitching about Republicans. So, a lot of people may remember this phrase from the Bush W administration: "You break it, you buy it." I thought this would be a fun way to introduce tonight's big topic, which is essentially the idea that we just want to break it on purpose. Now, a quick recap that kind of rolls us into the mood today. If you didn't watch the hearing today,
Jesus Christ.
you need to watch the fucking hearing today. And here's the thing. It's not that long. It's one witness. It's like an hour and a half.
It really wasn't that long. I was surprised.
It was like, we're in, we're out. You know the horrible shit you need to know. But here are the cliff notes. And this sets us up to discuss kind of how we got to that point and then where we are and where we're going. So the revelations today are basically laying out the reality that Trump was unhinged, maniacal, fucking everything up that he possibly could, throwing a tantrum.
It was Trump.
Yeah, but in the worst ways that you imagine. So apparently, the big takeaways are...
There are worse ways to imagine Trump?
Number one, he was mega pissed off that he didn't like the crowd size at his January 6th rally, which was being held inside a secured perimeter like you do for the leader of the free fucking world. And there were metal detectors and weapons checks where they were essentially, I mean, I don't know where the fuck they put all this shit. Like the storage nightmare alone. I didn't know where to put 300 kids.
First of all, I've been to that storage. I've been to
years.
that storage facility, and yes, it is a nightmare because Capitol Police don't know how to put shit away.
I'm not talking about the storage facility, David. I'm talking about standing in the middle of the fucking grass lawn on the mall. Where the fuck do you put the knives, the bats, the body armor, the firearms?
Well, no, because that's not where they started, right? The whole point was they started in the mall, right? So you can put up barricades and then put up the magnetometers.
Right, and they call those the mags. So the mags were around the perimeter of this rally, okay? And he's all pissed off because he's like anybody that is the proud bearer of a micro penis. He is entirely obsessed with the size of the crowd. And he's pissed off because the size of the crowd is not big enough. And he wants to let more people in. So he tries to tell everybody, stop checking for weapons. Just let them in. They can have their weapons. Fuck it. They're not after me. Which is beginning, I think, to introduce the concept that he knew who they were after. So the powers that be, which is a long list of agencies and personnel we're not going to get into, they say, fuck no, we're going to keep filtering.
Yeah.
So then he's obsessing over the camera shot so that it looks like a big crowd. In reality, it's actually a pretty shitty crowd, and it's fucking wonderful. Just like his inauguration, it's a pretty shitty crowd. Just like every one of his rallies, it's not sold out, and it's a pretty fucking shitty crowd. So then he goes into the whole thing about wanting to go with them to the Capitol. And I reiterate all the time, I'm not ever shocked.
One quick second.
Yeah.
So I want to reference this real fast. Trump has no clue who she is. All right, so
that's the go-to line for everybody.
Some real life understanding to this. I worked in the United States Senate. I worked as a staff assistant in the United States Senate.
Staff ass.
No, that's what we call them. We call them staff asses. It is the lowest rung of all the shit that you can possibly fucking be. Interns are actually slightly above because at least an intern someone's mommy or daddy loves them. If you're a staff ass, your mommy and daddy do not love you. You were here for a variety of reasons. But there is no possible way in hell that you, as the president or senator or whoever, does not know who the assistants to your chief of staff are. Like
Let's get real.
Exist.
Let's
That
get
doesn't
real.
exist. Well, because here's the thing that happens: your chief of staff is you made miniature,
Right.
so you send them everywhere to go do things.
David,
And so the person that you talk to half the time is going to be the assistants of your chief of staff.
David, you're being way too technical. I can solve this really quickly with Dick. Trump knows who every attractive woman on any staff he's remotely connected to is. Period.
This is true. By the way, I had to correct Lucas a little bit earlier. He's like, "Oh my god, I'm crushing on her so hard." I'm like,
I said I have a new
Trump.
GOP crush or GOP crush.
She is a Trump loyalist who
But
only
not.
broke with him because he tried to overthrow democracy, dude.
This
You
is
need
true.
to back the fuck down.
But you're also very much giving her more. She's like 26 years old. She hasn't been around very long. She's done a little light work with Ted Cruz. This girl is just another Republican
A
employee.
little light work would take like Laura Bobbitt did a little light.
No,
work
no,
with
just
Cruz?
carrying bags to Cancun. Nothing big.
Uh-huh.
So basically, it's my theory that anybody like Trump knows who every fucking cute girl on the staff is, and this is an attractive woman, and it's one of the things that brings me the most pleasure about her testifying.
I would also like to
against
point
him.
out, Lucas doesn't understand. The hottest women on Capitol Hill are also the ones that will cut your dick off while you're asleep.
That's probably true. So
I
he
can testify.
gets in the beast,
Don't do
and
it.
for those
Don't do it.
that I'm trying to get away from this shit. I'm trying for once to not be all crass, but all of you keep just pulling me back in. So Brian, she looks like she might be a freak. They usually are. So he gets into the beast being the presidential
No.
being.
You know what? We're going to follow this thread for just a little bit. No, they are freaks. They are all fucking freaks. But again, the conservative ones,
Oh, boy.
conservative ones are definitely the ones who will cut it the fuck off while you're asleep.
Anyway,
This is why we
he
have
gets in the
standards.
beast.
Thank you, Olivia. Thank
He
you.
demands.
Thank you.
He demands to go to the Capitol with his fucked up followers. Now, I'm not shocked at anything anymore. I mean, honestly, like there isn't really anything that happens anymore in the news cycle that I go, but at the same time, occasionally I open my mouth a little wide and go, oh.
Hmm.
This crazy fat fuck from the back seat somehow, and if you didn't see the hearing and you haven't read the summary, you might be shocked. This crazy fat fuck from the middle or back seat lunged and grabbed the steering wheel of the beast. So
just to clarify, for those of you who don't understand what the beast is, so they have the beauty, which is the stretch limousine that the president, you normally imagine the president arriving in. The beast
is the war room on wheels. The beast is the thing that you can't really blow up.
It's the Ford Suburban with all the armor on it.
I don't remember what the platform it's based on.
It's a Ford
a
Suburban.
Weird limo SUV hybrid. Like it's not tall per se, but it's not short. It's amazing. And it came around. It was introduced during Obama's administration, which is why I'm such a big fan of it, because it's basically the Obama limo, which I really wish people would remind him of, because he would never have ridden in it, and then he maybe could have gotten, I'm just saying, blown up. But anyway, so this
heavily armored SUV.
In a fury of his maniacal,
I'm sure everyone here knows what the beast is. I would imagine most people wouldn't.
He lunges for the steering wheel. So the president of the United States at the time, still the president, he lunges and grabs the steering wheel of the secured vehicle that he's riding in, which is like a crazed, squeeze me, a crazed bitch move. And then the Secret Service agent tries to interfere, and then he goes for the throat of the Secret Service agent. The president of the United States grabbed the wheel and attempted to change the direction of travel of the fucking armored vehicle that is designed to protect him and, by some accounts, freedom, and then decides to try to grab the throat of the Secret Service agent that tries to keep him from being a complete fucking maniac.
You know what? I really wish Trump had gone there. I really wish Trump had gone there. I honestly wish that choke him with his itty bitty hand.
Mark nailed it. Tried to choke him with his itty bitty hands. Shit did indeed get real. And Olivia reminds you that Chevy makes a Suburban, not Ford. I know you're a Ford fanboy and you just bought one, but
yeah, I did. I am a Ford fanboy. Me and GM have issues,
so
and I will eternally.
He throws a fit
on them
about not being able to go to the Capitol. Of course, everyone involved is like, we can't secure that. That's not going to be a thing. And then, of course, I love a lot of the journalists today. They're like, what did he think he was going to do? Just come walking out on the floor of Congress and be like, I'm the president, damn it.
That's exactly what he thought he was going to do. Because that's his style. That's what this is the demagogue style that Trump imagines himself a part of.
Other revelations today included him having flung his lunch against the wall of the room in the White House, frequently being known to sweep the food off the table in a tantrum, frequently being known, not just like January 6th, but all the fucking time when he doesn't get his goddamn toddler psycho way. And so everything that we learned today adds to the unhinged, dangerous, crazed, balls out fucking madman.
All right. So
that Trump was.
I want to reply to something real fast. Doesn't the president need an invitation from the speaker to speak to Congress? Yes, they do, actually, because Congress is a separate branch from the executive. But
he doesn't
do you actually imagine that Trump or the modern GOP, GQP, understands that, right? That he has no concept of that. In fact, he would have reveled in the opportunity to lead the mob because it would have given him validate. Like, the thing is,
he just wanted to be at the front of the line.
Trump constantly has to look at the fact that the brother who actually knew how real estate or money worked blew his own brains out. And that all daddy was left with was him. Because his own brother looked around and said, holy shit, I'm fucking evil, and took himself out.
The Drumpf dregs. That's where we are with
him. The problem is that all that's left is him, which his father made a point of saying, huh.
I mean, really, in the grand scheme of the family's European racist boner, Trump was the leftover smegma behind the scrot. Yeah, I said it. So here's the other great thing that we learned. We learned that a whole lot of people from Trump world have been threatening witnesses. And I think, Liz Cheney, she is the demon spawn of the demon spawn progeny of almost literal Satan himself. But in the Bush the W and Cheney era, it was the devil, We all understood how to deal with the particular dark, devilish psychopathic fucks that made up the pre-Trump, pre-Q fuck show. And then we got the new breed. And as much as Liz Cheney is born of a family legacy of fucking dog shit, she's in a weird, dark way an American hero in this context. And we're learning the difference in a very theatrically planned way. I think she and the chairman of the committee, I don't think that anything they're doing is accidental. And David, you've been there, you worked there, you might correct me, but I feel like they're doling out information in a way that tees up other information and that they understand this is being consumed on television. I think
mean,
they're trying to play Trump's
part of
game.
it is just like when their staff digests it, because I don't think you understand. Like behind the scenes, they have their staff who hasn't slept in 3 days, like trying to go through like, because the just to clarify, for the most part at this level, right, for the staff level, until you get to legislative assistant, we're talking about like barely 20 somethings,
Right,
who've been sent up to you by the party, normally by the state party, occasionally by supporters. I'm gonna be honest, half these people are fucking morons. They are just legitimately like dumb as shit, could not wipe their own ass without a fucking manual kind of folks.
What I'm seeing, David.
Let me finish. So those are the people in your office who are trying to go through this. The committee folks, the people who actually work for the committee for Congress, are balls.
Okay.
All the day. Just like, like the worst sin I have ever committed in my entire life. And I'm more than happy to admit this on air. The worst sin I've ever committed in my entire life was I made a bet with the staff in the office about snowfall in Japan and asked the Congressional Research Office to settle the bet. Next thing I know, there's a full-on congressional hearing. I shit you not.
And I mean, interesting.
This is how balls the permanent staff to Congress are.
David, the interesting crossover here for people that haven't ever heard, you worked at the time for the senator from Wyoming. So you're literally talking about like the same kind of crew. I mean, it's not the same people, but the same crew.
Yeah, I mean, like,
so is it fair to say that the revelations that we see in the hearing are very carefully thought out, and we're talking about the teaser trailers in some cases, and today's teaser,
it's a little bit 50-50, because here's the thing: the people who work for the committee work for the committee. They work for Congress, not for Democrats or Republicans. They work for the committee.
But they work for the U.S. of A. and they have some level of patriotic honor.
Yeah, no, they and the people who work for the office, who are trying to interface with the committee and organize things to do that, like the teaser stuff, that comes from the congressional office, not from the committee. The committee
that's where we ended today.
But info drops. Right.
So the thing that we concluded with today was just 2, and I hardly believe that's even remotely the surface. 2 statements by witnesses involving tampering and threatening, which is a pretty big fucking deal from a legal perspective.
And that's huge. If they tried to shut her up, and I imagine Meadows people may have tried, or if not Meadows people, maybe Eastman's people.
So you can say what you want about my GOP girlfriend, David, but I think she might go down as the next John Dean. She may end up an American hero.
She worked for Trump. She liked bigoted policies all day long.
I mean, John Dean was, but
You
look
might
at
as
him
well
now.
put your dick in Ava Braun, dude. I mean, it's not.
I'm just saying the media is not wrong when they call her the next Dean. I think this might be the thing, and she may be one of many who've been threatened. But essentially, my point in bringing that up is that if you look at this system of behavior and you think about it, where have you seen these things before?
Hitler,
Where have you seen
Hitler,
maniacs,
Hitler,
unhinged,
Hitler,
temper tantrums?
Hitler, Hitler, Hitler.
Oh, I was
Hitler.
going somewhere much more relatable,
Hitler,
my friend.
Hitler. No, I mean, because here's the thing: like Trump imagined this would be his beer hall putsch.
I appreciate Brian's contribution here. I'm going to avoid any deep throat references, totally ignoring them.
No, I mean the thing is
job, buddy.
Trump imagines what happened on January 6th as his beer hall putsch. Which, for those of you who don't remember German history or World War II history or Nazi history or whatever the fuck it was, so Hitler originally began as a spy for by the German security forces to infiltrate the Nazi Party and give the German security forces information about the Nazi Party. Hitler realized that the Nazi Party liked him, right? He was such a good spy for the German for the German security forces. They made him their leader.
Oh, it's a good little Führer. Good little
right?
Führer.
They liked him so much. He kicked out their original leader, and became leader of the Nazi Party, and then proceeded to build the movement until he could get a violent interaction, which was in Munich. He tried to stage a revolution or spark a revolution out of a beer hall in Munich, which was called the beer hall putsch.
David, I'm gonna disagree with you on this one, and here's why. I think you're giving him a loftier historical comparison than what is necessary.
Well,
and
let me finish real fast, because this is the point of the beer hall putsch. The beer hall putsch, like, a bunch of Germans saw other Germans rise up against the inadequacy of the Weimar Republic, which was the government that was currently in power in Germany, and it's corruption, it's inadequacy, and he went to prison, and eventually the government had to release Hitler, even though he tried to overthrow the government. And then he works his way, because most people don't understand how German politics worked at the time. He never actually won a popular vote. He worked his way to chancellor by virtue of a lot of violence and a lot of other things that preceded him coming to power. But literally,
it's a little bit House of Cards.
Trump, it's a little bit House of Cards. But Trump, I think Trump, in his own way, looked at this as his beer hall putsch, right? He was looking at this saying, like, oh, maybe. I may not win, but I can definitely cause enough violence and awaken my supporters.
Yeah, from an outward political sense, you're right. But here's where I'm going to argue with you. I don't think it's that high-minded.
Oh no, it's not that high-minded.
The comparison that I see,
him, like, how the fuck did Hitler come to power? The motherfucker wouldn't be able to, like, tell you word one. He would be left.
You're being an academic again. You're doing that thing we talked about, where the color commentary from me is really what we probably need.
Go ahead, have your trash thoughts. Go ahead.
Now that we've covered the knowing all of the viable goo mods in the office, you're going to see where I'm going pretty quick. Yeah. Grabbing the steering wheel and trying to choke out your own fucking goons. Anybody putting this together yet? And telling people I'm the fucking president as the reason why you can do shit, which is not at all the way it works. Flinging your food around the room. and then having your goons call up the witnesses and say, you got a really nice family. It'd be a shame if anything happened to them. You're going Hitler, but I'm going mob boss. And I have said from day fucking one that we didn't, but
What?
the United States elected organized crime into the White House, and that's exactly the fuck what's going on.
Hitler did the exact same thing with because again, the original leader of the Nazi Party, who was just as much of an asshole, made him fucking disappear. The leader of the SA, who was the leader of, like, for those of you who don't understand the differentiation, the SA was sort of like the Proud Boys. The SA was the Proud Boys of Weimar Germany, and once he no longer had use of him, right, he killed him and all his lieutenants. It's called the night. If you've ever heard the term, the Night of the Long Knives,
Right.
That's what that's referring to, is Hitler killing the head of the SA and all the SA lieutenants, so that he could explain to the SA, you're done. We got into power. Your antics are no longer appreciated.
Well, it's very clear to me that Cassidy Hutchinson, who is the person we saw in the hearing today, hopefully is in protective custody. Hopefully she's got a lot of bodyguards, and hopefully she's going to keep talking. And this intro that we got today is just the tip of the iceberg. I want to use Kelly's comment as a way to move over to you, David, talking about this overarching idea of the plan generally being to just wreck the fucking house. So Kelly, to ask, to answer kind of your premise here, the general idea is that these pieces of shit saw the opportunity to just break every fucking thing. And David had some pretty insightful
so the whole
takes on
point
that.
is that if you break everything, right, like the more democracy doesn't work. Nothing works.
And this is the premise that they're coming at. It's not the
right,
premise.
The premise that they're coming at. Democracy doesn't work. Nothing works. And again, for most people who live in high levels of civilization, like say cities, yeah, that's not going to pan out. But if you're in Crossville, Tennessee, if you're in Lansing, Michigan, maybe, I don't know, maybe not Lansing, but if
you're looking for a Crossville comparison, I'm going to fucking argue with you that our state capital is definitely not the one you're looking for. But okay,
I mean the Oopers, I don't know, in Michigan,
it's Yoopers. Jesus, you got to take a field trip. So what's the analogous space?
Anyway,
Crossville strikes me as kind of like highbrow redneck.
But that's exactly what they're going for. Highbrow redneck. It's democracy doesn't work anymore. Someone needs to take control. If you live in the legitimate, like if you live in calf killer country, no one gives a shit.
Mm-hmm.
But if you live in highbrow redneck country, well, we do kind of give a shit a little bit because, well, we need, this isn't working anymore, right? And that's exactly what happened in Germany. Like if
this
you
isn't
look
working for us,
if you look at where the Nazi Party and where the fascists normally would gain control,
right?
It would be in moderately developed areas. And the reason why was because, well, we need government to work, but democracy just isn't working for us because we don't have any vote. We don't have enough votes and we don't feel like we're listened to. Well, there's a good reason for that because you aren't a majority of anything. And you can imagine yourselves as pure and loyal Germans for all day long, but there's a bunch of other things happening. So, yeah. Your idea of how government is supposed to work doesn't work, right? No one's going to come in and save you from your own stupid decisions. It's sort of like heading out to Ashland City here in Tennessee, right? No, and like Ashland City is a good example. And
Speaking of rednecks,
right, Ashland City. For those of you who don't know, Ashland City is this enclave outside that a very fast growing enclave outside of
It
Nashville
is.
because
you can actually afford the rent
you
in
can
Ashland
afford
City.
to live there, right?
And in a weird, fucking messed up, sick fucking way, it's only like 20 minutes from Nashville. It's really fucking weird.
right.
Only for
But-
a lack of development is it that quick and that close.
Right,
but
the thing is,
Ashland shitty. Yeah, that's,
you're right. That
ladies
says a lot about Ashland.
truth.
But
And we've got some friends in Ashland City. It's not to take anything away from this. It's not their
Oh
fault.
no!
They
Like
live there.
I have several friends who moved out to Ashland City again because like I can't afford to live in Nashville, but I can afford to live, fairly well in Ashland City, even though there's this commute. Which by the way,
it's honestly, as far as
it is a
commutes to
wretched
Nashville
fucking
go,
commute.
it's one of the easiest.
No,
if you're good at cop dodging, that Highway 12 shit's not bad.
yeah, if you're good at comp dodging, but the problem is there's a lot of 2-lane highways.
But the big one's 4 lanes and it goes to a freeway.
But you got to get over to the big one.
That's true. Depends on where you are. To be fair, I've only paid attention to like the main drag.
Again, having had to go out there to get my COVID shots.
Right.
It's a pain in the ass.
But your line wasn't long. So,
well, no. Then they shut down the fucking place where I was supposed to get my COVID shots. I had to go like out of my fucking way. Anyway,
your general thesis, though, David, has been that these fuckers see the. Let's look at it as a vase, right? Like it's a fine piece of pottery, and it's sitting on a pedestal, and maybe it's been dinged a couple of times. We've had to like paint a little spot, or maybe glue a wedge back into the lip of it. And it's a little dusty.
There's a Japanese term for this. I have to look up.
Oh, there is, and it's what it's what several villains have been based on in their visual design. You're absolutely right. You should look that up while we talk about it. So, but see, what you're talking about is more like what they've been wanting to do, right? Which is to completely fucking destroy the vase and then glue it back together and claim some kind of bizarre patriotic credit. For the rest of us, it was fine to just keep the vase polished, keep it dusted, paint the chips here and there, glue a little wedge back into place. Say it again.
Kilo India November Tango Sierra.
Don't do that.
Uniform,
just fucking say the word again.
Golf India Kintsugi.
Yeah, Kintsugi. Yeah. So we've seen the latest Bond movie. The villain in that had a mask that was designed on that concept, and there have been several other things in nerd culture
that mask was designed on not Kintsugi. That was actually all the way. That was a throwback all the way to the original Bond. That was a no mask.
With the shattered and reconstructed thing, it's the same thing as Kylo Ren with his shattered and reconstructed helmet. It's the same design principle.
Right.
That's what you're saying these fuckers want, right? Is to just walk in to the museum and fling the fucking vase off the fucking pedestal and just start over and glue it back together however the fuck they want.
Well, no, that's the thing is they don't even have the concept of re-gluing it back together how they want. They want to destroy everything because from their perspective, everything is wrong, right? My place in society is wrong. This is one of the things where I feel like Democrats may have fucked up a little bit, especially in the 90s, which is they let blue collar workers stew in the idea that they weren't good enough, that they were a joke, right? That this is something that we incorporate into Disney films, jokes, whatever. That they're the same as, the toothless hillbillies out in fucking West Virginia, right? And it's a sad statement for the Democratic Party that they allowed that to happen. I would argue that the reason the Tea Party happened was because they allowed that to happen, because these people felt like, oh, I want dignity, I want respect, and they imagined that Trump and the current GQP gives them some level of dignity and respect. It doesn't. I certainly don't respect them more. I respect them less. But the thing is, the irony of the way this has been set up is they expect that. They expect me to respect them less, because that's how that's supposed to work. Is, well, they don't like me because I'm a real American. Right? That's that all of a sudden we get this phrase all the time. I'm a real American. What the fuck does that mean? I mean, my family's been here since independence. Am I not a real American? I mean, I feel like the majority of people here are, the vast majority, whether they be immigrant or not, are real Americans. And the problem that we've encountered with the current GQP is this. It's very same. It's very similar. And again, we keep on alluding back to Weimar Germany and all this other shit. And I think it's fair at this point, which is, what is a real German, right? For the Nazis, a Jew could not be a real German. A gypsy or anyone from Roma descent could not be a real German. The Polish or other individuals who were part of German society could not be a real German.
So the melting pot of Germany didn't suffice.
Right. Now we have these people trying to claim that they're the real Americans and they're the ones who are going to take back America. Take it back from what? From Wall Street? Well, they seem to lick that taint pretty thoroughly.
Oh God, do they?
From immigrants? Well, they rely on immigration more than cities do. Cities don't rely on immigration. Cities rely on the continuing collapse of suburbs, because suburbs don't provide any sort of high-paying jobs. If you want a job that earns you more than $50,000 a year, you're heading towards a major metropolis. Collapse of an industry, maybe. But again, where is industry growing? Industry is growing in cities, not in suburbs, because industry has access to transportation networks from cities. So your tool and die factory that was in the middle of fucking nowhere may have made sense in 1970 something, but that makes sense now. Now, I will be the first to argue that we have to refocus on industry in America.
Yeah,
but
I'm with you.
I'm not gonna argue that we need to refocus on industry in Crossville, Tennessee, or Upper, Michigan, or any of those other places.
You know what? The funniest part of this is that you keep fixating on Crossville. I can't figure out what your deal
because
is.
it's
so little idea of the geography.
Well, I mean,
involved in the
it's
bitch situation.
it's the closest like collection of bumblefuck that I can think of.
Really?
Like
You're sitting right there with
where else would you where else beside like of genuine like blue collar Middle Tennessee would you focus on?
Woodbury. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Like
Wait,
Woodbury,
which Woodbury? I'm curious.
Lebanon, Spring Hill,
Well, no, but
Dixon,
Spring Hill has
fucking
industry.
Springfield,
Spring Hill has
Portland.
has industry. Portland is a good point. Kingsport, it would be another good point.
Oh, Kingsport! Now you're really moving out there. I'm just trying to save you some mileage on that new Ford.
Listen, if we want to go all the way the fuck out,
Kelly
and
said Whiteville.
And then there's Whiteville. Oh Jesus, White House, Tennessee. White House, Tennessee.
I mean, you don't have to go all the way to Crossville to get
from White House, Tennessee. Is that is the midpoint between us and Bowling Green, and you stop there for gas at White House, Tennessee.
The problem with Michigan geography is everything is an hour from each other, so it's hard for me to pick a podunk because by the time you start trying to pick a podunk, you get back to another city. But I understand what you think you're going for. But the bottom line being this destroy everything because we're pissed off that shit's not going our way.
Like sticking it to the libs is about the idea that burn it all the fuck down. We don't care anymore.
Right.
And
look at Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas is doing the stick it to the libs routine.
Oh,
I don't know if you got into that when I took my nose fucking with me break. Did you go there yet?
No, I didn't go there. But I mean, like, it's the same idea. Which
Clarence Thomas is literally sitting on the Supreme Court with an axe to grind of just fuck up the liberals any way we can.
But I mean, and I have a whole fucking theory about that, about how he imagines himself. But I mean, I really feel like he hates black people. I really feel like he hates himself. And even though his first wife was black, I feel like I and some people point out, oh, well, his first wife was black. I'm like, I think that kind of goes to the point. I think he thinks of black people as inferior, which is why he targeted Anita Hill. To be like, oh, you're not a real person. I can sexually harass you.
Right. So Brian points out Trump's one of those people that doesn't care if the world burns as long as he gets to rule the ashes. Kelly nails it with his wife was in on the insurrection, which we've already been examining that. And the bottom line is I liken these people to a sandbox, right? We make all those take my toys and go home analogies about people acting like fucking sniveling toddlers. I really view this crowd, it's like if we've all been there as kids. We go to the beach, we build a sandcastle in that sweet spot where the shit still sticks together so you can actually do something with it, but you're in a never-ending battle of the rising tide, so your shit keeps getting washed on and you have to keep rebuilding. And some of us are content to treat America like that constant effort toward a more perfect union that my last guy talked about. And then some people just want to come along and be that fucking asshole 6-year-old that has to stomp on everything while they're out walking with their overprivileged family. Well, and that's what these Trump-level assholes are about. But they got a whole bunch of rubes behind them that are not privileged at all.
It isn't just that they're overprivileged. It's that the problem that they have is that they're not the center of it. Right. They were promised from birth that they would be, and this is one of my problems that I have slightly, and I think we need to talk about this in America, which is you can be, on one hand, yes, anyone can be president, right? Growing up, anyone can be president. On the other hand, there needs to be a certain level of, listen, Lucas, you're not going to be president. I don't know if this is heartbreaking news. By the way, I'm not going to be president. That isn't for me, that isn't heartbreaking news.
You know, David, I used to think about like in what weird, fucked up sequence of the world could I ever ascend to such a thing? And I used to just laugh at it like that's crazy talk. And
right?
then Trump. Then Trump happened. Trump
literally the
proved that
first,
any fucking crazed blowhard
I'll be
could do
honest,
it.
the first thought that began to arise in my head was I resign. I shouldn't be president. I know I shouldn't be president. Um,
Nope.
that's not my job, right? That's not what I should be.
I wonder
I'm out.
sounded to everybody else.
Like literally, I would show up at that podium and be like, thank you for electing me.
And bye.
No, right?
Yeah, for real.
The problem is that I feel like, you know, you always chastise millennials
Oh
for
boy,
some of this bullshit.
we're already over time. You're going to bring up the generational battle. Go for it.
Right? But you always chastise millennials for this. I feel like this is a long-lasting issue in America, which is you can be anything you want to be. You need to have some level of realistic goals. You can do a lot of things, but you can't be anything you want to be.
I don't lay that one on millennials. I lay on millennials the idea that you can be anything you want to be simply by showing up. I think that you're right.
On the other hand,
anything you want to be comes with limits.
Gen Xers and Boomers all had drilled into them was the idea anyone can be president. No, not anyone can be president.
Yeah,
not anyone can be a senator. Not anyone can be a representative. Not anyone.
The mantra was always, if you stay in school, don't do drugs, and work hard, anybody can be president. But now we've just taken all that away with Trump. Like any moron that can mobilize another fucking 30% of morons.
No, I mean the only reason Trump was able to do it was because he had shit tons of money.
I don't know.
He had 20 years of pumping his name into the common consciousness.
That's a big part of it.
Which is ironically, so they say DeSantis might be the contender to Trump, but the only problem is when they went to go do the straw poll, only 20% of Republicans could actually remember DeSantis's name.
DeSantis sounds like a Ferner. He sounds like Ferner.
Right. They're like DeSantos.
Yeah. Right.
Is that from the West Wing? Is that from the West Wing?
So really the summary, because we do probably need to wrap ourselves
fucking
up.
over time. We apologize for everyone
The
involved.
Summary of this is
at least 4 of you hung out and listened to us continue to bitch. So good for you.
DeSantis sucks. Spoken from a true Florida man, DeSantis sucks. And yes, Biden and Harris are running again, and we could do a whole separate show on how disappointed I am with Harris.
Jesus Christ!
The background extra playing the VP, doing nothing. But maybe we'll do that one in the very near future.
Yeah,
but
right.
The bottom line is, these people have succeeded in knocking that vase off the pedestal. The question is whether or not we send in a handful of museum curator experts to get that shit glued together, or if it ends up coming out looking like some kind of fucking 2-year-old's art project with fucking shit going all different fucking ways. And that's currently, judging on the state of the courts, that's where we're headed.
Yep.
And that was the plan the whole time, because they just
chaos
showed up.
is now the point. Chaos is now the point, because I don't think Gorsuch or Kavanaugh or Barrett walked into this entire process imagining themselves accelerationists that wanted to create this level of chaos. I don't think they
you don't think Barrett?
No, I don't think Barrett did. I think Barrett imagined herself.
Justice Handmaid's Tale. You don't think she showed up ready to burn shit down?
No, I don't
start
think
over
did.
from a
Alito
brand
did.
new.
Alito definitely walked into this entire process imagining that he was going to be the one to burn it all the fuck down.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
And the thing is, I think Barrett just imagines that she's serving a cause.
Or some kind of fucked up god that no one has ever heard
Right.
of.
She imagines that she's serving Handmaid's Tale very explicitly.
Sons of Jacob. Well,
Right.
you know what? We could do it all night. We could wallow in our misery, but instead, it's time to probably give the rest of you your time back. And we do appreciate you being here. As always, we encourage you to tell some people about our heathen drinking liberal asses, and share this, like it, do all the things. But at the end of the day, we're just glad that you're here. And we're happy to have these conversations between us and with all the folks who drop in their comments. I would say tonight, the comments have been quite lit. I really appreciated some of these quips. A lot of good stuff. And I'm going to check them one more time because we always discover one once we sign off. Bring the red balloon. Aloha, Brian and company. Thank you, Kelly, for tuning in. It's time for us to jump off and do our thing. But before we can do that, we have to say to you, good night,
good evening,
and good luck.